to the Making It Podcast, episode 75. Oh, Jesus Christ, I nearly pushed the water bottle off. We are back for another podcast, and that camera, Dan's in that camera. We've still got the 3-camera setup. We're doing all right. Another in-person podcast, bro. Come on, brother. It's good to be back. How's things?
Yeah, good, man. Just did a shift at the pub, which we're in right now. Had quite a busy working week this week, and then outside of that, I've been doing a bit of gardening, so I feel like I'm settled into home life now. I think last time I said I was still adjusting, but now I feel settled. So I'm feeling good, feeling very energetic.
Feeling warm?
It's quite warm
it's
in here.
Roasting.
Very muggy.
It is literally so hot.
But how you been, bro? Because you've got a new job now, haven't you?
I got a new job, yeah. I'm not going to say where I work, but if you're from where I'm from in Beeston, then you'll know the place. But we're on a public forum, so we'll keep it nice and private. But yeah, I got a new job, so I'm feeling good. Late hours, a good few shifts and stuff. So I'll still garden as well. So gardening and bartending, bro. I'm back doing it. So it's all I wanted. I wanted to be busy. I wanted to be making drinks and keeping myself away from Saturday nights out, I think. So,
I've been thinking a lot about what's most important to me, and I spent some time with Judy this week. Shout out Judy.
Shout out Judy always.
And she was talking about having meaning in your life and how that's so important, how things, even the small things like what's on your mug, like a little photo or something, means a lot. And I've been thinking a lot about energy as well, and like just enjoying life, and outside of everything, like you want to enjoy this experience. And it goes back to that quote you said about experiencing life. It's an experience, not a performance. And I've really been thinking a lot about energy and just feeling good and how we feel good. And I think it's all about just enjoying things and not thinking too much about the future and reflecting too much on the past. And I just showed Jamie a video before this of this guy talking on top of a mountain about being alive and thinking about being in the present moment and not thinking too much about the future and the past. And I think it's just important because otherwise we do kind of get stuck just kind of living day by day and kind of forgetting about actually enjoying the experience of life.
I agree with that, bro. I think as well, like, we've said it from the start of this podcast, by the way, like, about grounding and about being grateful for what you've got and reflecting. So I think the more that we do stuff throughout the day and the more we kind of get stressed about things not working out, it's important just to take a step back and be like, but hey, you're doing stuff, like, it's cool. Like, yesterday I was crazy stressing out. I went out last night, but before that in the daytime, I got a fair bit done. I went to the gym, felt really good, then came home and my smoothie machine, we've got this brand new smoothie machine, and it's just one of them where, like, it's the blender and the cup all in one, dead easy. You just throw everything in, does its thing. But I twisted it off, thinking that maybe it would be a cup separate. I don't know why I thought this. It's like one of the most stupid things I've ever done. I twisted it off and pulled it up, and literally everything just falls out. It goes all over my shirt, all over the... And it's like so easy to get stressed out over small things and actually almost ruin your day when you've had an amazing day. So it was like, I was getting dead angry, and then I was like, that was kind of funny. Now I think about it, it's like, take yourself out of that situation. Just chill. Have a laugh about it. It is actually funny that you do something like that.
But those small things do irritate us, though, and like they kind of add up in the day. And I think sometimes it's good to take that step back and think, okay, well, it's good that you're actually experiencing those small things. And so, something I wanted to talk about this week was I've noticed sometimes, obviously, you know what I'm like. I've got a bit of a weird character side to myself. Like not as in I'm a weirdo, but as in like a bit goofy, bit like energetic, and like do funny things and stuff like that.
Bro's a weirdo.
And some people can label it as, oh, Dan, you're a bit weird, like that's kind of the term you would label it as, but I'm not actually generically weird.
Get to your point though. We'll get there one day. No, it's all right. Yeah.
Someone while we were working the other day, they said, oh yeah, we were just talking about how you've got a good balance being weird and normal. And someone said to me once back in Newcastle as well, oh, you're a bit weird, Dan. And like it makes you kind of question your character a little bit. But I notice when I bring out my weird side, like that's my good side, like my goofy side. Like I don't feel like I'm being judged. And when I'm working here, I don't feel that. When I was in Newcastle at home, I don't feel that. When I'm in my own house here, I don't feel that. If I'm doing something goofy, I said it to you once, it means I feel very comfortable around you. And it kind of made me kind of think about my character a little bit. And it kind of made me think, like, when people mention something about your character or something about you or like an insecurity, it does make you question it a lot. But I wore a bow tie all of work yesterday as a laugh, and no one even noticed.
Weird. Yeah, that was strange.
And it makes you realise, like, all these things you're thinking about, no one actually cares as much as you think they do. But we think they do so much, and it's such a hard thing to get over.
Do you ever wear a new outfit and think, oh God, someone's going to think I look stupid?
Yeah.
And then you walk down the street and you look at someone. They don't look back at you and you think, why don't you want to look at it? It's new, you know, why don't you want to look? But actually, I think people search for other people to judge them. I think people want you to, because you've already got that premeditated thing in your head of someone's not going to like this. So you almost, maybe you don't want it to happen, but you're almost manifesting it to happen because you're going out and you will look at someone to see if they're looking at you. You know, if you just kept looking forward, you'd never even know. And it's like that idea of people actually in their lives now go out and search for people's opinions and judgment. Whereas if they just look straight forward and just ignore it, they wouldn't know. Like one of my biggest fears, and maybe you went through this as well, when you start the gym, is people looking at you and watching your form and you think, oh, am I doing this right? And it's like, does your muscle burn? Yeah. Well, then you're doing it right then. Right?
You think everyone's looking at you, don't you?
You think everyone's looking? I mean, I'm lucky because I'm short-sighted, so I don't know. It's like, you know, if someone's looking at me, I have no idea. Like, I'll be in the gym and someone I know will be waving at me. And I'm like, someone making some weird movements over there. I just leave them to it. And then they'll come up to me like at a different time or they'll text me and go, I waved at you in the gym, you didn't even say anything. I can't see you. So actually my slight blindness has helped me out.
But in regards to that, actually, think about whoever it was that was waving at you. They would have seen...
I'm sorry, by the way. No, I'm sorry.
But they might have been thinking in that moment, obviously you weren't being rude, but they might have think, oh, Jamie's being a bit rude. Like, why? Is he off with me? Is something going on? And like today I was serving some people at the pub and I didn't realise at first that they couldn't hear as good. They had some hearing difficulties. And so when I was speaking, obviously I didn't say anything bad or anything, but I had to repeat myself a few times. And I didn't obviously do it in a bad way. I just said it normally. But in my head I'm thinking, oh, how come they can't hear this? And I didn't realise until after, when they started doing some sign language, that they had some hearing difficulties. Yeah. And there's so many things which that typical saying, we judge a book by its cover, and there's so many more pages underneath that we don't realise, and it's important to appreciate that. We have to mention about what we did on Tuesday, Jamie.
So good.
We went to this woods and we cooked a burger. This woods which I found during COVID, biked out there as a young kid, and no one goes there. It's just like a peace land, isn't it? And it was such a great way to switch off, wasn't it?
I think, bro, you know, we spoke about young men last week and what they need. What young men, and you know, young women too, for sure. But like, there's always this kind of like thing online of like what the boys are doing.
Yeah.
And it's like the boys should be going out to the forest with their friends and cooking a meal. And I thought you were going to be bringing along a disposable barbecue. So I'm thinking, it's going to be all right, disposable barbecue, like we'll have a bit of music, it'll be all right. But then you were like, no, we're bringing firelighters. And I'm like, for a disposable barbecue? I'm like, all right. And then you're like, no, we're making a fire. And then my brain's just like...
Obviously in a safe, measured way.
Yeah. Dan is so stressed about some farmer calling him out and being like, you bloody nearly set my forest on fire. It isn't the case. Like, it's a completely safe place to do it. And we literally just dug a hole, dead branches. I'm telling you what we did, like you weren't there. But dug a hole, branches, lit it on fire, put the burger in, had a couple of beers. And I thought it was like the best experience ever because we had some music on. Dan did all the cooking, and I kept the fire burning to some extent. And then Dan had to warn me to not keep putting logs on it. Yeah, I was on music duties. Yeah. And you know what? Any music, Pink Floyd. We had like everything. We had Billy Joel.
Yeah.
We had Stevie Wonder.
Alice in Chains.
Alice in Chains, exactly. Red Hot Chili Peppers. Like all these bands. The important thing is listening to good music in a forest and cooking with your friend. And there's nothing else around. You can't see another person. You can't really hear the road that much, to be fair. When you've got music on, you can't hear it at all. So all it is you, your mate, and the music and the food. I think that connection is massive, bro. And I feel like, you know when you go for a coffee with someone, some people do see it as like a task. What are you doing today? I'm going for a coffee with Dan. But it's like, it shouldn't be that, I don't think. I don't think it should be labelled as a task. I think that should be like, it's leisurely, right? It's like, well, what are you doing today? I'm going and having food with someone. Enjoy that food, like, enjoy the food and just revel in what it is.
Being present.
Yeah, being present, but like, really enjoy that moment you got with your friend. There's nothing wrong with having a time frame, bro. We all have busy days and we're like, I've only got an hour, that's fine. But in that hour, just appreciate what you're doing. And like, I was actually, funny enough, watching Anthony Bourdain go hunting with Joe Rogan today. And they were all sat around a campfire eating this food that they'd hunted. And I'm like, that is so cool. And I'm like, but that's almost not, we didn't hunt we didn't hunt for the burger, but like, it's so good when you all just get around a fire and you just talk and there's nothing else to distract you. You know what I mean? I think that's so cool.
That's the thing, bro. You're not stressing about anything other than making sure that the fire's kept well and the burger's all right. It locks you into a certain environment for a period of time where that's your only stress.
And bro, this is just opened my mind to something. It opens you up to an environment where only simple things matter. In everyday life, you go anywhere, everything is overcomplicated for various different reasons. People overcomplicate things to sell you something. There's things we don't understand because we're not of a certain intelligence or of a certain experience. All these different things. You go into a forest, your only thing that you need to worry about in that moment, and we knew we were going to survive, bro. It's not this isn't Castaway, you know what I mean? But there's no Tom Hanks. But it's a case of all that matters, is keeping the fire alive, cooking the food, music, and a chat. And really the only things that matter are the first two. So your environment determines what really matters in a moment. And to us in that environment, bro, all that matters is that.
And you mentioned about Anthony Bourdain saying that when he went travelling, it was just about seeing people get by. And so much we overcomplicate life about what we're going to do in the next few months, the next few years, what's our plan for our lives. And it almost feels like, especially when you're younger, you get that pressure to kind of make those decisions. And like we spoke about a little bit last week about the comparison towards the end, you see so many people doing different things and extreme things, and it makes you worried, and you're constantly in almost like an anxious phase of your life. And doing something like what we did teaches you a lesson, because just cooking that burger, imagine just a general day today. What am I doing in the next hour? What am I doing in the next 30 minutes? The next second? Yeah. And Julie said to me, think about what's the next right thing you can do. And I spoke to her about wanting to just be a good person in life, and that's what sparked her to say that. Think about the next right thing you can do. The small things, those simple things which you said. What are those simple things that can make someone else's day, that can make your day? And it's just really important to be clear on those things and making sure that we're making those small things important, because they make such a big difference. And we've had a couple podcast episodes from our history that have recently shown a bit of listeners from different areas in the world. And
shout out to all of you, by the way.
Big shout out.
Thank you so much.
US, Indonesia, Brazil.
Everywhere, like, let's go, rock on, yeah.
Like, if you're listening right now, big up to you,
Thank you
from wherever you are. But we've been doing this podcast now, you can see the number there, 75 episodes, and there's not always going to be a lot to show for your efforts. And I was actually speaking to Riley about this a few weeks ago when we went for a coffee, and he said, again, Chris Williamson mentioned it, how you work hard on something and that sort of trajectory line, you don't see any results, and then you see some results, and you're like, oh, something could happen here, and then nothing happens for a while, it drops back down. And it's almost like that point where it's like you've seen some results, but then for so long you don't see anything, and then at the moment you want to give up, you don't, and then you see even more results than you've ever seen before. And just all of a sudden seeing people from different countries listening to the podcast, like, that's kind of just, it's not come out of nowhere because we've been putting effort into it, but it's just sparked out of nowhere. And it's just understanding these things that we put effort into, sometimes you're not going to see the results, but all of a sudden they can spark out of nowhere.
Well, it's consistency, bro. That is. I didn't realise like how important consistency was. When I was doing streaming, talking about Forest, I got 1,000. I went from 90 subscribers to 1,000 within 4 or 5 months. Consistency, bro. And the reason that I've only gained 200 in the last 2 years is because of inconsistency. So it's a simple game, bro. And don't get me wrong, not everyone is going to be getting millions and millions. That's fine. You know, I'm happy with what we're achieving now, bro. Is more than I ever imagined. So fucking.
Just you listening right now is what we want to achieve.
Thank you. We appreciate it, because at the end of the day, bro, this is just a passion project for us. You know, and I think that if you had asked us a year ago what we would have wanted, and we asked each other what we would have wanted, it's just to impact a few people. One person we'd be happy with. So I wanted to actually go back to what we were talking about earlier, and you were talking about when we were in the forest and stuff. We had a little bit of a conversation about what kids should be doing these days and stuff like that.
Because the social media ban that's just happened.
From the social media ban. So if you don't know, and we don't really talk about politics.
We don't ever get into it.
We don't ever get into it. But do you know what, bro? I'd like to a little bit more sometimes, because we need to remember that this is a current world thing. And I think we always talk about things of the past with the podcast, but I want to talk about something very current. 16-year-olds, I think it's 16 or under 18s? Under 16s?
You can't have social media until you're 16.
Until you're 16, and that includes YouTube as well. Well, firstly, you're from an academic household. My stepdad, my mum, didn't go to university. I think my mum did for a little bit, but then dropped out. My dad didn't go to university. I know both your parents went to. And you and assume your brother will be going to university. So I wanted to ask you a question from your standpoint. Where is education leading children to now with the ban? And also just in general, are kids being told to do things they're passionate about more, or are they told to follow a path to safety, i.e. uni? Because I personally don't believe uni is safety, but I would say schools do promote that.
Well, when we spoke about it, we were saying, like, if you're going to get rid of it, you need to replace it with something. Like fund community centres, fund sports villages, fund things that kids can then go and do. When I spoke to Scarlett about it, she was actually quite pleased with the ban, because she said, like, some of these kids at a very young age are being exposed to things which they shouldn't be, and I think that's the main thing, which is you can it's a capsule of everything. You can search up whatever you want and something can come up. You can political agendas, things to do with sexual identities, and you could be a 12-year-old looking at that thinking, like, you're not supposed to be seeing that sort of stuff, And so I understand that point. But if you're going to get rid of something that big, which so many people use, something else has to come in to kind of replace it, and you have to direct kids into the right place. And we all talk about when you go out on your bike as a kid and you don't really know what you're doing, but you're just out on your bike, and that's the sort of stuff kids should be doing. So if we're not going to trust them on social media, we should put more trust into them playing out on the street. And in regards to the safety aspect, I think it is a dangerous thing online. Like I say, you can search up anything, but even the real world also isn't the most safe at times. So there's a level of trust there which you have to, I've never been a parent before, but parents have to then give kids to be able to go out and play and do things, because something has to replace that void that needs to be filled somehow.
So when I mentioned about environments being overcomplicated or potentially simplified when we were talking about the fire and the forest, could social media almost create that overcomplicated environment where kids my brother's age, 14, younger, question who they are, who they like, what they want to do when they're older, which is crazy. They're like, I want to be a millionaire at 13.
Yeah.
What? Just fucking worry about football on a Saturday. Like, relax. So I think social media has actually created an overcomplicated environment where kids now just procrastinate and they worry and they get so anxious that exams now are just the worst thing in the world, bro. And I'm sort of fortunate that I did get anxious about exams. I also didn't really care as much as I probably could have. But I'm grateful for COVID in a lot of ways in respect to that. Obviously, it was a horrendous time, but I'm grateful for the fact that during that time, I didn't really care because I'd found something I'm passionate about. And to me, in my head, that's all that mattered.
Which was?
Which was my broadcasting and my football. And whether my vision of what I wanted then is the same as it is now, bro, at the end of the day, my passion for football was sparked in that moment. And one thing I remember was when I was 16, I didn't really know the full Forest team properly. Out of, like, if I was having a chat with you, I wouldn't know every single player. And probably more like 15, because that's when I got into commentary at 16. And that's when I thought, oh, you need to start really, really learning your football and getting into this. And then, a year later, you know entire team sheets, you know everything about the players, you know all these things. And the reason I'm mentioning this is because when I was asking you the question about schools and the safe path, I actually think that now we're getting rid of the social media situation, which in some ways is good, in some ways is bad. And I think from the bad thing, I think you're right, the exposing kids to certain things. From an area I don't agree with is that kids can't create as much now because there isn't social media. And that being said, it's not a bad thing, because at the end of the day, you should probably wait till you're 18 really to be able to do anything. But back on the point about university, should kids be told that university is the way to go?
I think everyone lives a different life. No one has a direct route in anything. Like for some people, uni is the best thing to do. For some people, it's not at all. You can see it. Like we've mentioned it a couple of times about people going to uni and not actually knowing what they're doing there, and it doesn't actually work out the best. So I don't think there should be a direct path that everyone goes on. Obviously, you need to go to school and stuff and go through the levels of that. But in terms of university, I think that's when you start to realise who you want to be, and that's a decision which would be different for everyone.
Are we told to follow our passion enough?
Well, that's the thing. I think, I was saying to Scarlett, I think my initial opinion on the whole thing before I spoke to Scarlett was, if you're going to get rid of social media, sometimes I think, why remove the thing? Why not educate about the thing? And we should be, if talking about the young men last week, in schools, and we spoke about this on our last ever episode before you went to Australia, when you were Steve and I was a koala, about development in schools and stuff.
Yeah, we did, I remember.
Yes, we do arts and stuff, and you can be creative, but talking about passions and what you want to do with your life, I don't feel that's spoken enough about in schools. I think 100% that should be in there more often.
Because I was always told when we were at school by my parents and by other parents was, you should learn about tax and mortgages and all that stuff. And I agree. But then now I'm a little bit older, I'm actually like, yeah, but what about what you want to do? Not what the system thinks is good for you. What do you want to do? The reason I didn't enjoy English as much as I could have is because the curriculum was so rigid. You have to read this book, you have to write about this book. Why isn't there a wider array of literature, of topics that you can discuss and talk about rather than just one set thing? Like, why can't we have a little bit more of an open source kind of view on education in terms of there is a little bit more choice to our education? Because for me at the moment, bro, it's like you got on the day you pick your A levels, that's it. That's your next 2 years. But why, when we pick our A levels, can't we be a little bit more varied with what subjects and what, I think that funding is the problem. Undeniably, funding is the problem. And I'm not going to go into the depth of how money's spent because I think we waste it and we piss it up the wall all the time. But I just think with schools, they don't teach you to be passionate enough. I think that you should be allowed to leave school earlier. I think that they should allow kids to work at a younger age. In Australia, you can work at like 15 in places.
I think some people can leave at 15, 16.
Some.
Yeah.
I think everyone should have that choice. But again, there needs to be paths towards careers. And at the moment, I feel like we're creating so many graduates, not enough graduate jobs.
Yeah, 100%.
Which is a massive problem.
Definitely.
And I've been saying this for time about saturation and the amount of kids that are going through uni. It's incredible. But there's going to be kids in debt that don't ever get to do what they want to do. And that breaks me. I hate that. And I'm not an advocate for university because I've not been. So I'm just going to be like, hey, my way's the best way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I know people that have been to uni and they're smashing life. So I respect it. But the overall point is more, if you've got a passion, whichever way you choose to go, I would be heartbroken if there isn't the outcome that you want. So I think that schools should allow kids to follow their passions a little bit more. Because when I wanted to do my football commentary and would leave school early or I'd go away somewhere, or my teacher would just say, you just need to drop out. You just need to drop out. But they wouldn't say it in like a supportive, like, go drop out, you got this. It'd be like, you're not going to make it unless you go to university. You're probably going to have to drop out. Do you know what I mean? It's just like, I just don't think that you should be teaching kids that there is just this dead end if they don't do what a teacher says.
Yeah, it's a big system which I'm sure if you unravelled everything, there'd be so much in there which needs to be sorted out. And I hope one day that kind of aims towards that direction. I'd be interested to know what teachers think about that sort of topic. And talking about the social media and just people in general and how people are kind of shaping up their lives at the moment. I saw, do you know Jake Humphries?
Yeah.
Do you know about his story about how, funny enough, talking about education
in
uni,
BT and stuff.
This is a great story. He flopped his A levels, got really low grades, and I'm pretty sure a teacher said to him that he wasn't going to make it in anything.
Yeah.
He ended up getting onto some like BBC show, like I think it was a kids show or something.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden he got a bigger role, and then he's gone into where he is now. He's got a massive high performance podcast with 1 billion views, and he's done Match of the Day and all these sort of things, BT. And that's a really inspirational story of someone who hasn't gone through the education route making it in something. And I think he's a very inspiring guy. And he said he had a lot of people messaging him saying, "Oh, Jake, how can I be an influencer? How can I influence people?" And he was like really frustrated at that. It's like so many people these days want to be an influencer without having actually done anything to be there. He said, go do something and be great at it. And then through being so good at it, you're undeniably an influencer because you can teach something you've been good at. And almost so many people these days want to be able to influence people and go online and say things and voice their opinions and without actually having done something and gone and put the hard hours into something and been consistent with something where there was no results and then it happened. And so many people want to be an influencer without actually doing something. I think these days we have to look at, we've spoken a lot about passion recently, and I think making an impact, and it is hard knowing what you want to do. It is. But relating back to the last podcast, I saw Gareth Southgate actually come out about advice for young men, and it was, yes, there are struggles, but we also do have a responsibility to go out there and find out what we want to do. He said it was always hard to coach people if they weren't receptive to that coaching. And we have to want to receive things, we have to want to gain knowledge, we have to want to go out and do something to be able to gain things and be able to teach things. And I think that's an important lesson in that.
And you mentioned influencer. What's the difference between influence and impact?
For me, I think...
In your definition?
For me, I think influencing can be a very good thing. You can influence someone in a good way, which makes a good impact. But I think these days, influencer is such a used term for people going online and like influencing about their lifestyle and what they do in their life and stuff like that. For me, I think they go hand in hand, the genuine good intention form of them both.
Yeah.
But the problem is that there's not a good intention behind it sometimes. Now it's for likes and views and just looking good, as opposed to actually being good and making a good impact. What about you?
Well, I would say that, and I wanted to say I'd rather be an impactor than an influencer, because even though we say there isn't much of a difference, you look at the big influencers of the world, bro. I don't like, people will show me a video of someone like, get ready with me, or like all these tutorials for stuff, and I'm like, but what are you influencing? Like, I don't think that's influence. I almost don't even know where I'm going with what I'm saying. But like, to be honest,
it's a hard thing to kind of navigate.
It's a weird thing to navigate, but like, I would rather have a positive impact on people than influence their opinion on things. So I would rather my opinion impact your train of thought than influence your train of thought. All I want to be is another perspective that you take into account. I don't want to be the perspective. I want to be another perspective. And that doesn't mean I want to be second, or I don't want to achieve good views, or I don't want to have the biggest impact on you than anyone else does with my opinion. But it's my intention with the opinion. You understand?
Talking about the influencer thing, I just clicked because when we were talking about the woods earlier, I knew there was something we spoke about that I wanted to bring up, but I just completely forgot. And I've just remembered. We were talking about how these days people feel like they need to share everything.
Yeah.
When they do something, they need to post it. And it's almost like if it's not on social media, it's not happened.
It's the gardener thing. Remember that we were talking about?
I can't remember. Go on.
Oh, and you're gonna have to wait for me, because I remember I forgot last week when we were talking about it. It was something about life and like if you're growing plants and proving to everyone that you're a gardener. It's something along those lines. You'll probably know this quote better than me, but it has completely left my mind. But it all relates to that idea of you don't need to prove what you are to be something.
Yeah.
If you go out and coach, you putting it on Instagram makes no difference.
Yeah.
You'll get views, you'll get likes. That's the difference. But take away from it, you are still doing that. So the problem is when people separate that little throwaway thing of likes and comments and they attach it to what you do. And that's the problem. That's the passion killer. Because, and by attaching, I mean like making it almost one thing. It isn't. Always still separate it. You being a coach and you being a coach on Instagram, two different things. Because I don't know how your intention is. For most coaches on Instagram that I see, they're shouty, they're loud, they want to be heard. And it's like, is that real you? You look at like gym influencers. They're shouting into a phone, you need to do this, you're doing this wrong. Is that really you? Like, why don't you just do your thing? Like, I don't like this kind of, this clickbaity way that we're going down. And this episode is undoubtedly called social media or something along those lines. But I wanted to ask you about the kind of dramatisation of short form clips and all that kind of stuff. Why do people think that shouting into a phone has more impact? And do you think it has more impact?
Well, I can't quite remember who I was speaking to this about the other day. It was my brother, about how people do rage bait videos now to just get views. And I think when people do the whole shouty thing and they do the rage bait thing and the short clip form of stuff, realistically, they just want views and attention. Let's be honest.
Should we start doing it?
It would be easier to get views, wouldn't it? But
you suck. You smell.
And I just think they don't come from a good intention. But some short clips are good because they want to make that impact, and I think that goes into the influencer versus impact thing. But something I wanted to mention about the whole sharing what you're doing. Who are you when no one's watching? Why do you feel like you need to share what you're doing? If it's to make it a good impact, of course. I post things on social media to make a good impact. I want to make people's day.
Right.
But some people might want to show it, to show they've done something, to show they're doing it. But if you're doing it anyway, why do you need that sort of validation?
Where does that
from
mentality
people?
come from, though? Well, and to bring it back to the absolute original point, will the social media ban change people's views when they do come to use social media? Because they've not had the experience of seeing. Like, there is going to be now a generation